In the vastness of the universe, where thousands of civilizations compete, there exists a place where only the most exceptional individuals can survive the harshest challenges, the Eclipsion Military Academy. Here, the Door of Death challenge is considered the ultimate test, with a failure rate of 97.5%. Even the strongest warriors from distant planets often fail before the trials designed to push every limit to the breaking point. However, one day, an application from a young girl from Earth, a planet scorned and mockingly called the world of death, caught everyone's attention. Nova Kain, with no remarkable background, and not a legendary warrior, was just an ordinary human. Yet, her presence sparked curiosity, not only because of her origins but also because of something no one could have anticipated. She completed the challenge in under 1 hour, a feat that left everyone, including the veteran trainers, dumbfounded. But what really happened within the walls of the Eclipsion Academy? How did Nova manage to overcome the challenge in ways no one else could? And was this just the story of an extraordinary individual, or was it a sign that humanity held a potential the entire universe had never seen before? At the center of the Farian galaxy, the Eclipsion Military Academy sits on the planet Atheron, surrounded by rings of blue light emitted from a massive crystal core. It is not just a training base but also a symbol of power and pride for the Galactic Union, where the finest warriors from hundreds of civilizations are trained. For thousands of years, Eclipsion has maintained its top position thanks to its famous Door of Death challenge. Designed to push both body and mind to the ultimate limits, the challenge is a series of brutal tests, ranging from extreme temperature traps and mind games with artificial intelligence to simulated battles in environments so realistic that many participants cannot distinguish between the real and the virtual. The only goal: survive and overcome everything within a week. The trainers, primarily extraterrestrial beings with superior intellects and centuries of combat experience, take pride in keeping the graduation rate as low as possible. They believe only the most exceptional individuals deserve to join the ranks of the galaxy's elite protectors. One day, the Academy's admissions system received a new application. The application immediately caught attention, not because of the applicant's extraordinary achievements or reputation, but because of her origin, Earth, a planet known in the galaxy by the nickname World of Death. Earth, in the eyes of extraterrestrial civilizations, was a strange planet. Its environment was not only harsh for intelligent beings but constantly fluctuated with devastating natural phenomena: earthquakes, volcanoes, superstorms, and plagues. However, what truly earned Earth the title of World of Death was its wild ecosystem. Creatures, from the tiniest to the colossal, had developed incredibly strong survival and evolutionary adaptations to endure these harsh conditions. The applicant, Nova Kain, was a strange name. She had no noble warrior titles and was not a representative of any powerful military organization from Earth. She only listed in her application that she was a free fighter seeking to test herself at the Eclipsion Academy. This immediately caused the trainers to feel suspicious and somewhat dismissive. Zorer Hux, a senior supervising officer, even laughed aloud when reading Nova's application. Earth, huh? They're not known for their technology or military strength. They're known for walking monkeys and their ridiculous entertainment. However, Garoth Nex, the head supervisor of the course, had a different perspective. With his serious and cautious nature, he decided not to dismiss Nova outright. Let her try. If she fails, it will be a lesson for those weaklings who dare step into Eclipsion. But if she succeeds, we might uncover something interesting. The day Nova arrived at the academy, the young girl caught the curious eyes of everyone. With her small frame, sun-kissed skin, and sharp gaze, Nova seemed no different from other trainees from planets where gravity was 3 times stronger or where creatures evolved with 4 arms to adapt to combat. Other trainees whispered amongst themselves as they looked at her. Some laughed, calling her the weakling from the world of death. But Nova did not react. She simply walked past them with a calm expression, as though she heard nothing. When Garoth next conducted the initial evaluation, he looked at her sternly. "You know this course is not for the weak, right?" he asked, his tone like a warning. Nova just nodded, replying briefly, "I know. I'm ready." Her short answer caught Garoth off guard. There was no arrogance, no fear, just a calm confidence. Despite his lingering doubts, he decided to let Nova join the other trainees. When the official list was announced, Nova's name appeared, and the entire academy began betting on how many hours she would endure before quitting. Some believed she would collapse at the first challenge. The more optimistic ones gave her half a day. No one, not even the most experienced trainers, could have predicted that Nova Kain, the small girl from Earth, would be the one to change everything. The massive steel gate creaked open, and the blinding light from the central training room poured down, casting a heavy atmosphere as if it were about to engulf everything. The students stood still, their backs drenched in sweat despite the challenge not even beginning yet. They knew what was coming, the harshest series of tests any being had ever faced. Garoth next stood on a high platform, his voice echoing over the loudspeakers. "The Door of Death challenge does not just test survival skills, it is a measure of courage, intelligence, and the ability to overcome fear. The weak should prepare to quit the moment they step through this door." His words weren't just a warning, they were a declaration of authority. Garoth had witnessed countless students fall, give up, or even disappear without a trace once the challenge began. He didn't believe any being, no matter how exceptional, could complete the course without exhausting themselves or at least sustaining severe injuries. As the signal blared, the students entered through the gate cautiously, their eyes filled with anxiety. But Nova Kain was different. She entered calmly, her deep black eyes scanning every little detail of the space. No one paid her much attention, most thought she would be the first to drop out. The first challenge was a maze with extreme temperature fluctuations, where the hallways continuously alternated between freezing cold and molten hot. The students had to find a way through without losing consciousness or suffering severe injury. Some tried to use their armor for protection, while others moved swiftly to avoid harm. But Nova chose an entirely different approach. She observed the junctions of the hallways and realized the temperature fluctuations weren't random, but followed a specific cycle. Instead of trying to run away from the extreme heat and cold, she used a metal rod from her personal toolkit to manipulate one of the mechanisms, stopping the temperature system completely in her area. In less than 10 minutes, she had escaped the maze, while the other students were still struggling at the early stages. The second challenge involved fighting against artificial intelligence combatants. A team of robots had been programmed to analyze and predict every move the students made, creating an almost impossible battle. The other students used weapons or combat skills to try to defeat the robots, but Nova knew that would only drain their energy. Instead of fighting, she waited for a moment when the robots were focused on analyzing data from the other students and quietly made her way to a hidden control panel. Using a decryption tool, she disabled the entire system. As the robots stood motionless, she walked away, leaving the other students and trainers dumbfounded as they watched through the surveillance screens. Each subsequent challenge proved Nova's creativity and exceptional observational skills. In the third challenge, a simulated battlefield filled with enemies and obstacles, Nova didn't engage in direct combat. Instead, She used the terrain to move quickly, avoiding dangerous areas. She even used psychological tactics to cause the simulated armies to destroy each other by triggering internal conflicts through fake signals emitted from a homemade handheld device. When Nova passed through the final door and completed the challenge, the clock read only 56 minutes. The central system, programmed to track and evaluate every movement, displayed a result no one could believe: completed no injuries. In the observation room, the trainers stood in silence, unable to speak. Garoth Nex, who had always prided himself on ensuring that no student could complete the challenge without shedding blood, felt as if his entire belief system was being challenged. He stared at the screen, where Nova walked out, still as calm as when she had entered. This is unacceptable," another trainer spoke up, his voice full of anger. "She must have cheated. There's no way a creature like her could pass the challenge without facing any obstacles." But upon checking the data, everything was clear. Nova had not only followed every rule but had also found solutions no one had ever considered. She hadn't relied on strength or advanced technology, but on her intelligence, creativity, and incredible adaptability. Garoth Nex remained silent. His gaze was fixed on the screen, where Nova stared directly into the camera, as if she knew everyone was watching. In that moment, he realized this girl was not just any student. She represented something far greater, a potential that Eclipsion had never witnessed before. When the door closed behind Nova, a tense atmosphere enveloped the entire observation room. Garoth stood up, never taking his eyes off the screen, and spoke in a hoarse voice, "We need to talk. She is an anomaly we can't ignore." The secret to Nova Kain's success was something no one at the Eclipsion Military Academy could have predicted. In a place where every challenge was designed to test strength and endurance, Nova had employed an unprecedented approach, exploiting the very weaknesses in the system and turning them to her advantage. In the first challenge, the extreme temperature maze, the students faced hallways that constantly fluctuated between 100 degrees Celsius and 500 degrees Celsius. Most others tried to track the temperature cycle and avoid it, using every survival skill they had. But Nova didn't follow that conventional route. The moment she entered the maze, she paused for a moment, her gaze sweeping over the walls, the floor, and even the ceiling. While the other students rushed forward, she carefully analyzed the structure of the hallway. The walls were made of a special alloy that could withstand high temperatures, but the outer coating was a composite material that could be damaged by mechanical pressure. Nova quickly found a metal rod that had been abandoned near the entrance, a maintenance tool someone had left behind. She tested the weakest point on the wall and began to dismantle the outer layer, creating a small hole. When the system automatically detected the breach, it rerouted energy from other areas to repair it, temporarily disabling the temperature mechanisms in her area. Within minutes, Nova had created her own escape route, heading straight out without facing the entire maze. The surveillance system recorded her actions, but instead of flagging them as an error or cheat, it labeled her actions as a creative solution because she hadn't broken any rules. The next challenge was a simulated battlefield filled with enemies, designed to test the students' combat and survival skills. The robot teams, equipped with advanced weapons and AI, were capable of analyzing and predicting every move of the opponent. While the other students used traditional tactics, shooting, moving, hiding, Nova took an entirely different approach. She didn't try to destroy the robots, instead, she focused on understanding how they worked. Using a small decryption device she had crafted from parts in her toolkit, Nova infiltrated the central control system of the robots. She discovered that they were programmed to prioritize threats with weapons. So, instead of fighting, she deactivated her weapon and moved in an illogical trajectory the AI couldn't predict. Even more, Nova exploited the robot's communication system. She sent out fake signals, confusing them into thinking their teammates were enemies. Within minutes, the entire robot team had self-destruct through mutual attacks. Nova walked out of the battlefield without firing a single shot. But the most impressive test came at the final stage, the mind trap room, designed to weaken the students' mental resolve. This room utilized advanced psychological technology to exploit each student's deepest fears, causing them to lose focus and make irrational decisions. When Nova entered, she immediately recognized the purpose of the room. Rather than fighting against the illusions the system created, she focused on analyzing how the room operated. Nova realized that all the images were originating from one common source, a broadcasting tower at the center. Instead of confronting her fears, she used a small mirror to reflect the signals from the central tower, causing it to disrupt its own system. As a result, the room quickly became ineffective, and Nova walked out unscathed. When the final results were announced, the entire trainer team was thrown into chaos. No one could believe that a student, especially one from a planet like Earth, which wasn't highly regarded, could pass every challenge so perfectly. Garoth Nex, who had always prided himself on the invincibility of his tests, felt insulted. He had designed every challenge to ensure no one could complete them without sweat, blood, and tears. But Nova had proven that traditional methods were not always the only way forward. In a private meeting afterward, the trainers began to debate about Nova. Some believed she had cheated, but the data from the system showed that she had not broken any rules. Her approach to the challenges not only displayed intelligence but also an exceptional strategic mindset. She didn't break the rules, Garoth said, his voice deep in thought. She just understood the rules better than any of us. Nova Kain wasn't just a successful student. She was a reminder that sometimes, the greatest strength doesn't lie in muscles or weapons, but in intellect and creativity. The emergency meeting at the Eclipsion Academy took place in a vast room, surrounded by glowing walls that flickered softly in sync with the artificial intelligence system's breaths. Garoth Nex, with a grim expression, stood at the center of the conference table, surrounded by the top trainers and tactical experts from dozens of planets. "This is unacceptable," Garoth bellowed, slamming his hand down onto the table. "A cadet from Deathworld, a planet we have long dismissed, breezes through every challenge without breaking a sweat? Either she's cheating, or we've completely misjudged the entire structure of our training program." An eerie silence filled the room, only broken by the rhythmic tapping of Lurictian, a trainer with dark purple skin and glowing eyes. "Sir Nex, we've examined all the data. There's no indication she violated any rules. Our system, no matter how perfect, didn't detect any abnormal behavior from Nova Kain." Garoth glared at Luruk, his eyes seething with fury. "Then how did she do it? Break the maze walls? Disable the combat robots? Overcome the mind trap room? Everything in our plan was optimized to test cadets to their absolute limits. She found a way to breeze through without breaking a sweat. Do you think that's normal?" Luruk shrugged before replying calmly, "Maybe the problem isn't Nova Kain. Maybe it's us." The words struck like a bomb in the room. Trainers began to argue heatedly. Some defended Nova, claiming she was proof of humanity's superior adaptability, while others insisted her method had undermined the training program's integrity. Another trainer, Zirek Val, stood up, his expression contemplative. The oldest member of the team, with over 200 years of experience, he spoke. "We need to understand that challenges don't always have to be faced head-on. Nova Kain has shown us something we overlooked, the ability to approach problems from a completely different perspective. Garoth was still far from calm. So what are you saying, Val? That our entire training program is useless? Not useless, Zirek replied. Just outdated. The room froze. Zirek's words were a dagger to the pride of Eclipsion Academy, which had long prided itself as the toughest training ground in the universe. Nova Kain didn't just do what we expected, Zirek continued. She shattered our expectations. That doesn't diminish the value of the challenges, it proves that creativity and adaptability must be prioritized. Garoth crossed his arms, his sharp gaze fixed on Zirek. So what do you suggest, Val? Overhaul the entire training structure? Or do we accept that she's an exception? No, Zirek said. I suggest we learn from Nova Kain. That statement sparked a new discussion. For hours, the trainers debated whether the Dead Door Challenge was still relevant for assessing the survival and combat abilities of cadets in today's era. Supporters of Nova emphasized that humans from Earth had a unique perspective due to their harsh and volatile environment. Earth was not only a death world but also a place where biodiversity, climate, and culture shaped individuals capable of overcoming extreme limits. Meanwhile, the opposition argued that Nova's actions, though creative, couldn't be applied to the masses. She's a genius, one trainer said. But that doesn't mean every cadet can do the same. After hearing enough opinions, Garoth stood up and made an unexpected conclusion. All right. If Nova Kain is an exception, let her prove it. I want a new challenge, a test that doesn't rely on the old rules. And I want her to be the center of this experiment. The room fell silent. Garoth continued, if she truly is someone who surpasses all limits, she will not only prove her worth to us but also help us redefine the future direction of the Eclipsion Academy. Let her face what no one has ever overcome. Zirek Val smiled faintly and nodded in agreement. Perhaps, Garoth, for the first time, you've made the right decision. The meeting ended with an audacious plan. Nova Kain would not just be a cadet, she would become a symbol of change at the Eclipsion Academy. But that also meant she would face even more dangerous and difficult challenges than anyone before her. In the days that followed, as news of Nova's accomplishments spread, she quickly became the hot topic of the entire academy. Some cadets admired her, seeing her as an idol. But others were envious, questioning whether her success was truly deserved. For Nova, these were just the beginning. She didn't care about the scrutinizing gazes or the skepticism. Deep down, she knew she hadn't reached the peak yet. Her journey had just begun, and the challenges ahead would be the hardest she'd ever face. The final meeting to evaluate Nova Kain's performance took place in a massive conference room, with 3D screens projecting moments of her overcoming each challenge of the Dead Door Challenge. Orbis, the artificial intelligence at the heart of the Eclipsion Academy, spoke. Nova Kain didn't just break every record, she forced us to question the true purpose of this training program. Garoth next, now more composed but still sharp-eyed, replied, the purpose was always clear, to prepare the best warriors for survival situations beyond the universe. But now, I realize that our program has focused too much on physical strength and biological limits. Nova Kain has shown us something we didn't want to admit: humanity's adaptability and creativity are superior advantages. Orbis continued, humanity has long been recognized as a unique species, but Nova's success isn't just hers. It reflects something deeper. The nature of humanity is to overcome adversity in ways no one can predict. Nova Kain's story became the focal point of every discussion in the academy. Experts from various civilizations began analyzing data about Earth, a planet where life evolved over billions of years under harsh conditions, from asteroid impacts to climate shifts and endless warfare. They realized that humans didn't just evolve to survive, they evolved to think creatively in the face of challenges. Where other species saw adversity as an end, humans saw it as the beginning of new ideas. However, Nova Kain also became a symbol of controversy. Some believed she was an exceptional case, a rare genius, and couldn't be considered a representative of all humanity. But others argued that it was precisely Earth's harsh environment and diverse culture that produced someone like her. The Eclipsion Academy was forced to overhaul its entire training structure. Rather than focusing solely on physical strength, they began incorporating tests of creative thinking, adaptability, and, most importantly, the search for solutions beyond the ordinary. Nova was invited to be a special advisor to design new tests. Meanwhile, far across the universe, Nova Kain's story spread like wildfire, even reaching the ears of species who once viewed humanity as weak. This stirred both interest and concern. Some civilizations feared that humanity, with its relentless adaptability and creativity, could become a future threat. Secret meetings began among the leaders of the universe. They wondered, is humanity a special species, or just a passing phenomenon? Should they collaborate to harness their creative power, or be cautious and keep them under surveillance? Nova Kain, in the meantime, remained calm. She knew her story wasn't about proving humanity's superiority, but about conveying a larger message. True power isn't in strength, but in the ability to see opportunities where others see only dead ends. For the Eclipsion Academy, Nova's journey had ushered in a new era in the training of space warriors. New cadets were encouraged to not only challenge their bodies but also their minds, to imagine, and to question every rule. For humanity, Nova Kain became a symbol of hope. She proved that humans didn't need absolute power to rise, they only needed intellect, courage, and determination. But Nova knew that her story wasn't over. Beyond the vastness of the universe, greater dangers awaited. Unbeaten species, dangerous planets, and secrets no one had ever uncovered. This is just the beginning, Nova whispered to herself, her eyes fixed on the starry sky. Within her, a fire burned not to prove her greatness, but to explore where the true limits of humanity lie, and whether they even truly exist. Nova Kain left the Eclipsion Academy with a sense of tranquility, but within her, a greater set of questions had emerged. The astonished gazes, the admiration, and the doubts from the trainers were only the beginning. Beyond the starry sky, she knew there was so much more to explore, countless challenges yet to be faced, challenges that far surpassed any test she had ever undergone. The Academy, after this shocking event, would be forever changed. They would not only have to redesign the training program, but they would also have to reconsider their views on evolution and humanity's potential. But what was even more alarming to other civilizations was that Nova's story had spread an undeniable truth: humanity was not just a small species from a forgotten planet. They were individuals capable of seeing possibilities that no one else could, ready to face death to unlock the doors leading to life. Nova stood before the door of her spacecraft, her gaze set on the distant stars. "This story isn't over," she whispered, as a promise to herself. For her, this victory wasn't the end, but just a small step on the vast journey of humanity. And for the universe, the appearance of Nova Kain was not just a phenomenon, it was a signal that humanity, though small, was ready to enter the greatest arena of all time, and they would not stop.